وسهلا بكم جميعا. Hello everybody and thank you for being with us today with DARDASHA time. And this episode is going to be with one of our Yemeni comedians that needs to be known, and his name is Ali Sultan. And DARDASHA time is really working to highlight some stories about our people that our community should know about, and they inspire us to know more and inspire the coming generations and many, many other things. So,
أخيراً.
أخيراً it worked, Ali. I was trying to reach you and apparently it worked. So, and now I need to know more about you, Ali. So let's just go ahead and know more about you. So I want you to tell our audience, who is Ali, what you do, how long you've been in the States, and when did you come to the United States?
Okay, cool. That's deep questions. Who's Ali? Ali is Ali Sultan. I'm here. I was born in Sana'a, in في المدينة السكنية في شيراتون.
Okay.
And when I came to the States, I was about 14, turning 15. I was one of those common people who wasn't sure about how old they were. We're not big on birthdays, and some of us are, very like loosey-goosey with our birth certificates.
Okay.
I remember like coming here is when I was for sure, I knew like I was 15. I was like, oh, nice, I know my birthday. And then I moved to Minnesota because my mom is allergic to the sun, apparently.
Oh. So now you live in Minnesota? Is this your
Minneapolis, Minnesota. Okay. I've been here since. I've been here for the last 15 years. I just turned. Yeah.
Okay. So, what is your degree? Your academic degree?
That's such an Arab question. Everybody wants to.
I know this. I know it.
You and my mom want to answer. want a degree. Huh?
Okay.
I was gonna go for engineering.
Okay.
And I think halfway through, I realized it's not what I want to do, and then I quit. But I had so much credit that I was like, I might as well get an associate credit, like an associate degree. So I just got a degree in liberal arts, a 2-year thing, and then I went into comedy.
Comedy?
Yeah. I took a big risk.
It took a big risk. Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this question. I don't know, when you came to the United States, were you more attached to the Yemeni community, or you were attached more to other communities? I mean, like, were you surprised to get to know more about the Yemeni community in the United States? What was your vision about it? How did you see it? How were you able to blend in, or no? Just tell us more.
I think when I moved here to Minnesota, it was such a small Yemeni community. The only person that was around my age range was my sister.
Okay.
And I've had enough of her, like I needed new friends, and there was
okay.
I remember like the people I would hang out with were like real like older people with families and kids, and and a lot of tahzeen, and I was like, it's the stuff that I wanted to get away from,
Okay.
A lot of, just a lot of arguments and just sitting down and having a jalsa, and everybody's just arguing about politics and whatnot. So it was like, it wasn't kind of like, it was kind of like, you come to a place like America expecting, a different experience, I think, especially as a kid, where you want to experience new things, and it was more so like experiencing the same stuff when I came to this community. And we're wonderful people, but we were not on the same wavelength, not the same age group. So I kind of was just a nerdy kid, just going to school, studying hard, learning English.
Okay.
Same token, I didn't like right away understand American kids. There's certain, like, I remember being nice to someone, and then they said, "What's your ammo?" Like, I gave somebody something, and they said, "What do you want in return?" Like, to me, that was such a weird culture, that there's like everything was an exchange. Like, kindness was a currency almost.
Okay.
So I just ended up kind of like, I was going to an all-white school, and So I just ended up like kind of just being a lone wolf where I just watch a lot of TV and study and stuff like that. That's part of probably how I got into stand-up, is just a lot of time alone.
A lot of time alone.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of time to be creative and you know.
Do you have siblings? I know you said you have your sister. Do you have
Yeah,
like brothers?
I had my younger sister Amira. She's turned 18, and
Mm-hmm.
I have my older sister Basma, and Basma is 33, around 33, and she's having her second kid, so we're excited.
يا يعني أنت خال باليمني.
أيوة.
Okay, Ali. Let me ask you this question. That way, we always ask the youth or the new immigrants. If we
Okay.
consider you as a new immigrant, I don't think so.
Okay.
You're already blended in. You're just part of this community.
Oh.
But what challenges did you face being an immigrant? Okay, especially as a Yemeni immigrant, what helped you to stay focused? Is it the language? Is it was there a support for you there, or there was a lack of support for you? The guidance from others. Who did you look up for?
You know, it's a good question. I feel like for an adult, because
Mm-hmm.
when you come in as a teenager, you already have a support system, right? You know, like I came in and my mother was already here. I had my uncle was here, and they had their community of friends and family members. So you know,
Mm-hmm.
like I wasn't coming in here looking for a job and stuff like that. But I've seen the people that come here as adults.
Mm-hmm.
The community, one thing that we do a good job is like helping new immigrants with like work or introducing them to the community and stuff like that. So that wasn't a challenge, an aspect. I think the challenge, language is easy because you know at a young age it's easy to kind of grasp a new language. I think the hardest thing. Let's see, what was the hardest thing? The hardest thing is just like the lack of diversity was kind of tough at first. You know, Minnesota. I don't know if you know about Minnesota. It's a lot of white people.
Oh,
It's,
oh, I don't know.
yeah, it's super. And the winter was rough. You know, like coming from a place where I never seen snow. You know, and having to deal with like 8 inches of snow, seeing a frozen lake, and you know, there's a lot of like the elements are not that were a challenge for me. Like you know,
Mhm.
aside from that. School is a little tough at first, you know, when you don't speak English, everybody assumes that you're slow, you know.
Mhm.
Remember, like even the teachers would be like, "How are you?" And like, it doesn't. I don't understand you if you yell it and go. I'm not. مانيش أهبل يعني. It's okay. So that was.
Okay, Ali. Let me ask you this question.
I feel like I'm
Since
answering
you
these
speak
questions horribly.
English, mashallah, perfectly, mashallah. How is your Arabic now?
It's okay. It's okay. I don't. I just because I do comedy in English. So I actually not like I think in English now. I dream in English, and so I spend a lot of time like immersed in English that I don't really talk that much unless I'm with mom and family and stuff like that. That's when I speak it. So it's good. I still can read and still can write, but definitely not as strong as it was when I came.
She's off and right, so I thought about it. I was like, what is wrong with me? And then I realized, oh, I don't want a hamster. I want to be a dad. I want to be I'm trying to take care of a child. I have the instincts to take care of a kid, and I thought it was a hamster instead. I got the order wrong. And I realized that, so I texted her. I said, Kelsey, we should have a child. And she was like, oh, that should be at least a phone call. So you can bring the hamster now. That's fine. I was excited. Like I never knew if I wanted to have a kid or not. Now I know, but like I can't find a good reason to. Like I don't know why I should have a kid. I have two reasons, and they're very selfish. They have nothing to do with the child. First reason, it's gonna be awkward because my mom is here. I want to love my mom less. Like, way less. I love my mom way too much. And this is a little dark, but I had this genuine thought once. I was like,
For having such a career to be a comedian
Yeah.
And with our community, you know, our community is just like a very conservative community. And to accept Ali Sultan, I know you are at the end as a male. We accept males more than females,
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
it's still a challenge. I understand. So
Yeah.
how you can relate yourself as a comedian to your community? Or you relate yourself more as an American comedian that comes from a different ethnicity or a different nationality?
That's a very good question. The way I perceive myself is I'm three different, like I'm different parts. You know, part of me is the Yemeni kid that grew up in Sana'a. Part of me is the American teenager. So like I feel like I'm in a place where I'm not like belonging to any part 100%. You know, I'm not fully American because I have these experiences and cultural difference and way of thinking and knowledge that I have as a Yemeni. And then I'm not quite 100% in that part conservative, you know, Yemeni community. But you know what's cool is like last time I was in California, I was able to meet people, millennials, Yemenis who were very like open-minded and were open to the arts and were doing stuff that was different than engineering and being a doctor. And I consider you someone like that. You're like what you're doing right now is something different, right? It's not super common. Where at least where I grew up in Sana'a, for like a woman to have somewhat of a kind of like a talk show, right?
Right.
Yeah, and it's weird because part of you you want to please your people, but part of you is like doesn't agree with those ways, with certain ways. So always, I feel like it's always a weird compromise, you know, like sometimes you find yourself with a group of Yemeni people who may say some extremely conservative things that you don't agree with. You know, they may be misogynistic in a way or sexist or whatever, right? And it's a weird pressure because you don't want to like stand out and be like, I don't agree with this, and then you open a huge wormhole of arguments. So it's a weird pressure. I feel like easier to be part of the American community because you know there's almost no judgment, right? And you kind of like this is like a fun experience of kind of you can be an individual and that's celebrated, and then when you try to pander to your community, you almost sometimes sacrifice your authentic self. You sacrifice some of your you know ethics and ideals, and I don't like that.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I don't know if I'm answering that question good.
Yeah, you did. And our comedy is an art, and art is always needed, and to convey a message of nowadays issues. Now, I've seen like some YouTube videos of yours talking about jaw freedom. That's a nowadays issue that we talk about. So I would love to hear it from you and tell me more about it and how the people react to it.
Sure. Well, for me, I'm not to be pretentious or anything. I've always loved laughing. Like that's my favorite thing in the world. I think when I was like a kid in Yemen, you know, like just growing up in a Yemeni family, you don't quite get a lot of attention. Everybody's busy trying to make it, you know. And I remember I used to do Mr. Bean impression at home. I'd do a Mr. Bean impression and it would kill and people would laugh and I would get attention that way. So I've always done this for the humor first, but I do understand it's the responsibility of it as an art, right? So I think Joe Freedom started as something humorous, and that humor could be like a reaction to our recent, you know, our last election and tensions with both sides, and I think Joe Freedom was kind of like a fun thing to be, you know, you're playing almost like a bigot, but it's funny just for bigots to see themselves in a brown person saying the same thing. It was kind of like a way to make fun of that. That was the whole thing. I did it a couple of times, but it was taped, so it's on YouTube. And, I don't really do that often. Mostly I just do like regular stand-up comedy.
Okay. Now for your performance, where do you actually do that? Do you get like invitations? How you market yourself, or who market for you?
Yeah.
Yes, I like to know more about it.
For sure. The way I do it is I started in Minneapolis, and slowly it became like, you know, I made a reputation for myself, and got the respect of my fellow peers and bookers that are around the town. So eventually, after doing it here for a while, I get asked to do shows in the clubs that we have. And then now that I'm a full-time comedian because I quit my job, I have to kind of reach out to other states and or, you know, so sometimes some part of it you reach out, part of it you get through comedians, part of it you get through bookers. And if there's no shows, I just will do like an open mic, which is where you go and practice new stuff and maintain your you know, your comedy muscle. So I'm doing about 5 to 7 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I work very hard at this. I work very, very hard. So, and then not just the 5 to 7 a week. I'm always like writing. I'm obsessed with comedy. That's all. It's a big part of my life.
Okay. In the space of comedy,
Yeah.
who's your idol?
Who's my idol? I mean, the people that I like Dave Chappelle a lot. He makes me laugh.
Okay.
Dave Chappelle like always made me laugh. I think that's like, you know, like that's someone I would never touch as a comedian. I would never be as good as Dave Chappelle, but it's definitely like someone who makes me love the arts and inspire to get better as a comedian. I would say that. And then yeah, that's it. My mom inspires me. She's not a comedian, but she's like installed in me that I can pursue this stuff and like really believes in me and reassures me that I'm on the right path.
Very good. Very good, Ali. So now I seek your advice. For
Okay.
who? For the youth.
For the youth.
Yes, those people who have dreams and they know their dreams might not be welcomed by the parents. Yeah, they need to do something that maybe can be shocking to the parents, but they have a good dream. Mm-hmm. So how do we inspire them? How do we help them to know who they are and what they love, how they can achieve it? How can they come over this obstacles in their life, and their academic life, daily life, social life, and even for their dreams?
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of embracing failure. I think that's a big key of succeeding in anything you do, whether it's academic or the arts. The big part of it is having the engine to withstand failure and to see it as part of the process rather than the end of the road, right? There's plenty of times where I have a horrible show, as I've made people upset in many occasions. There are times that I wanted to get something and I worked really hard for it and I didn't get it. I deal with rejection so often that I'm immune to it at this point. It really doesn't bother me, and I deal with a lot of doubts. You know, being in something that's you know, art or entertainment. I don't have any guarantees. I don't have a 401k. I don't have guarantee that I'm gonna continue to have success. I don't have a guarantee that I'm gonna make my bills month to month. I live in a lot of uncertainties, but I'm a huge believer that if you if you really believe in something and you put your heart to it and you work hard and you're kind to people and you know how to be respectful to your peers, whatever area you're in, network and stuff like that, you'll be fine. You'll be okay. I just follow your heart, but it's not only about the heart, it's about the amount of work you put in as well.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Yeah.
طيب يا علي.
2020.
You talked about your mother, and there is a very nice quote says, life began when waking up and loving my mother's face. That's what I
say that one more time. That's a beautiful quote. Can you say that one more time?
Okay. Life began with a waking up and loving my mother's face. That's Elliot. And I have seen some pictures for you and your mother. So tell me about that warm relation between the mother and the son. What's her role in your life? What she means to you? You are as a son, what you do for her, how sometimes you react to her advices sometimes, or pieces of advice you think it doesn't fit you, but she's my mom.
Yeah, that's a good question. My mom is everything to me. I love my mom dearly. I love her too much, people may say. Intensely love my mom. and part of it is because she's very one of those rare mothers who kind of like raised us as a single mom in Yemen. She's a, previously like I didn't have my dad around. She was like, she did everything. She's the reason we're in the United States. She's the reason I dare to dream and I dare to have the courage to follow my dreams. Like she set the example,
Mhm.
Someone like when I hear about how she came here by herself with no support and managed to, build a network and have a career and all that stuff, it's very inspirational. So to me, she's a hero. She's my personal hero. I can't say anything. If we do a podcast together, even we have a podcast called Stories with My Muslim Mom,
Mhm.
and that was a way for me to kind of get to know more about her story and share mine as well. And we have like I think 10 episodes where we talk about it, and she's incredible. I would suggest anyone who's listening to that to check that podcast as well.
Okay, I will for sure. Okay, now our next step before we wrap up. I know your time is valuable, and everybody is.
No, it's fine. I was watching Netflix, so it's fine.
That's what we always do if we have time.
uh,
So I'm gonna give you like a kind of a quote, and then
uh-huh.
I need your feedback.
Okay.
Okay, the way you think about it, how do you accept it? Do you agree with it or no? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. This one says by Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. Okay.
Okay. We cannot always build a future for our youth, but we can build our youth for future.
I like that a lot. That's cool. We sometimes say that one more time. That's a very
Okay. We cannot always build future for our youth, but we can build our youth for future.
Future. That's very cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Sometimes you have no control about of the world itself, but you can control the people or the future generation who can influence that world. That's very cool. So, like you can see that with gun control kind of in this country, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were having all these intense debates about it, but you see young kids from high school and middle school having conversations that we're failing to have, and I think that's a good example of that.
Okay.
Very cool.
Good.
I agree with that 100%. Who am I to disagree with Roosevelt, huh?
Yeah, I agree too. Okay, that's another quote too.
Can I ask you a question? May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you have children of your own?
Oh yeah, I do have children.
How old are they?
I have twin girls. They're 17.
Okay.
And I have one boy at the age of 11, and the last one, that's my youngest, is 8.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Okay. This is I see the passion. When you ask these questions, I can see the passion about the future.
Questions of mother.
Yeah, motherly question.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay. The other quote says,
Uh-huh.
"It is better to be hated for what you are than to be loved for what you are not."
I've heard that quote before, and I love it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Think of it's kind of like Jim Carrey has a great story, and it might not be like unrelated to identity, but he talks about his father. I think his father had a different goal. He wanted to be an artist of some sort, and eventually he ended up getting this job, and he worked at this job for years. And then one day he got fired, and he had to be homeless. And so Jim Carrey and his father were homeless for a minute. And then at that moment is when he realized, you can spend your whole life, being something that you're not and still not get a reward for it. I might as well take the risks being who I am. And that's how he kind of like went through entertainment. So it's kind of similar. And I absolutely agree with that. You can't get everybody to love you. And if everybody loves you, you're probably compromising too much.
Okay. The next one.
That's why a lot of people hate me, by the way.
I think you have to pay the tax at the end of being famous or for doing what you feel like who you are.
Authenticity comes with a tax, for sure.
Okay, those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly. That's John Kennedy.
Yeah, high risk, high reward. That's kind of what we talked about earlier. I think if I can give anyone one advice is dare to fail, man. It's there's another artist that I heard that talks about the wealth of knowledge that you have from failure, right? For example, as a comedian, if I do a show and it goes really well, it feels great. It feels good. I'm like, oh my God, I did a good job. But I'm not learning anything from that experience. But if I do a show and it goes horrific, it's kind of like a crime scene that you have to analyze, and you go, oh, if I did this, it would have been better if I wrote this joke this way. There's so much wealth within that failure that makes you grow. So that is part of any other career or any other thing that you follow. Failure has so much information, and you should embrace it.
True. Okay. Now we come for the famous quote for Gibran Khalil Gibran. I'm asking you here as a kid, as a son of your mom. Okay. You're not a father yet, right?
No.
Not yet. Then that doesn't fit you. You can answer that as a son or as a kid. I'm gonna say it in Arabic and tell me how we're gonna catch that and answer it.
مش مشكلة. تفضل.
يلا. أولادكم ليسوا لكم. أولادكم أبناء الحياة.
I love that. So I like that, and that's very true to Yemeni parents, or mostly Arab parents, and it feels like sometimes they raise us to be servants, an extension of, or servants to them, and they put their own goals, like, oh, I wanted to be an engineer. That means you have to be an engineer, and I love that. So your kids are not your own property; they're of the world. So
yes, they're the property of the world. Yeah.
And the application should be, hey, if this kid wants to be an artist, let him try, let him live. If this person wants to do this, let him do this, and that's I wish more Arab parents followed that quote. And I was lucky where my mom is very open with that, but it's kind of like weird because I don't know any other Yemeni comedians, like Yemeni stand-up comedians, at least immigrants, and that's part of it. It's part of it is because we raise our kids to play it so safe, and we install our own dreams and stuff like that towards them, and scare them of taking risks and stuff like that. So I wish that was a thing.
Okay. Okay, Ali. I need to ask you now this question. The double identity.
The double identity?
Yes, that's for us. I think we are doubled somehow. We came with our culture, with our background, and we try to fit into this community. And everybody's trying to maintain the identity we came with and try to apply it to the life of our children. And it's really hard because it's a different generation. There is a big generational gap between us and the kids nowadays, or the youth your age. And how do you see it? What is your philosophy behind this?
The philosophy behind it, I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate that I'm almost like I don't have to do that much with my family. I don't really have I've always been strong about what I believe in and who I am as a person, and I don't think I've had to kind of like have a whole. I know, but I know kids that do that. I know like other kids that outside the house, Mahmoud becomes Mike and. Does certain things outside, but at home he tells us tells lies of what he was outside of the house, and then and it's a very unhealthy thing, or conservative, being like really like strong Muslim in the household, and then outside, anything goes, So I don't know. It's complicated. I understand it. I empathize with it. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with much of that, with my mom, because we kind of come to a conclusion of I don't know where I'm going with this, but we talk here and there. Yeah.
Now let me ask you this question: since we are Yemenis,
yes,
Yemen now is in a crisis. And sometimes we try to separate ourselves from what's happening just to focus on what we are doing. But I know everybody of us has something inside that we should do something for Yemen somehow. It doesn't need to be political, but somehow we need to do something.
I feel, you feel somewhat of a guilt too sometimes.
Yeah.
Man, it's very tough, I sometimes I've been trying to write a book called Happy to Be Here that complements the album that I'm recording, and part of that is I wanted to go back and write about my strongest memories, whether it is a place, Sheraton, or whether it was my friends that I grew up with, or family, and so on, and just revisiting these memories. I was started crying for hours because I forgot. I've been so detached from my country and from the friends that I made and the land that I called home, because it's almost like a survivor thing, because like it's very hard to accept that you will never have the home that you had as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard to accept that you're not going to see the friends that you called brothers once, and that you might not see your aunt that raised you, or see your cousins and so much. So I think it's so much, and there's so much things to deal with that as a defense mechanism, someone like me, I guess, will like kind of detaches, and you're aware of it, and it's still always in your mind to like, I should do something. But the second that you sit on that thought, all these emotions come back, and it's very hard to deal with. So I think the right thing to do is kind of sit with these feelings and follow through. Do something. Anytime I see someone who's raising money for Yemen or whatever, I'll jump in. I'll do what I can. If with my friends and circle of people, I spread the issue. I make it important for them. Because a lot of Americans, to them, Yemen means nothing because they don't know what it is. It's hard to empathize with something they don't see.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's wajib alayna. And as Yemeni people in America, we can build that empathy. They can be like, oh, this is, there are people like you that need help, and you can spread awareness about the issues and everything.
Okay, what's your message to the youth? This message is going to be divided into two parts. The first one, the message to the youth, and message to their parents. And I mean the immigrants in the US.
Message to the youth and the youth. It's kind of basically everything we just said during this episode. Youth, don't be afraid to fail. Just go. Just if you believe in something, go for it, and with time you'll get better at whatever it is that you do. And I remember when I started comedy, I was very bad at it, but I believed that I was funny, and I learned to get better at my job. So nothing comes, nothing is a short instant reward. You have to work through these things, and for the parents, please give your kids a chance. Make sure they're happy, because if they're not happy and they're doing a job they don't like, you just kind of like you continue this chain reaction of unhappy families. And what I mean, I've had people that kind of pressure their kids to do something they don't like, and then they did the same thing to their kids, and it's just a chain of miserable families. And we can stop that now. This is, and especially if you live in America, you have no excuse. This is the land of dreams. This is the place where you can make anything happen. So why own the gas station? You can if you want to, but you don't have to own a gas station to make it, or you can be anything you want. One more thing I'd say for parents, I'd say like we as our culture, we're very bad at communicating between generations and between parent. And I think we have especially the way we're raised in Salon, is like, I felt like your parents just tell you what to do and what not to do. Like they feel like their only message is do this, don't do that. It's always been, the communication was in a form of order. And it's never like, how are you feeling? You know what I mean? How are you today? What do you like? And there's that gap of that bad communication causes a lot of unhealthiness. So I hope we can start communicating better.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you very much. And for our audience, Ali was with us, and inshallah, we'll get to know more about other people and the featured people in our community, talk about them and their life. And Ali, again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your life to do something like this. That means a lot, and that helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
مع السلامة.
مع السلامة.